Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jeff Blankenburg, and I'm here with another episode of Alexa and Friends. There's a couple of weird things happening this morning. The first one is I have headphones on. The second is I have an echo in my ears. So I'm going to do my very best to make this awesome today, but I know I'm going to stumble on some words. All right, well, with that, Shilp, welcome. I have Shilp Agarwal, sorry.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy to have you here today.
Great to be here, Jeff. It's great.
I'm sorry, this is a lot in my head, but we'll make it work. So one of the things,
like no pun intended with the echoes. I got a bunch of echoes here too. So
yeah, I definitely have echoes. I also noticed none of my lights turned on. Alexa, start the office nonsense. There we go. That's a little bit better.
Okay.
So one of the things that I like to do to start these conversations is ask a bunch of silly questions. And so the first one that I'd like to ask you relates to superheroes. We've seen lots of movies in the recent past about all sorts of different superpowers and superheroes. And I'd love to know from you, if you got to pick one superpower for yourself, what would you pick?
It's interesting you asked that. I kind of like think about that. I try to figure out what are the things that I would want to have if I could. And I think it would have to be time travel for me.
Time travel?
Yes.
Okay, so we got to dig into that. What do you mean? What would you use it for?
So I mean, I'm gonna date myself, but I've come from the age where we've kind of seen everything from no telephones to like those dial phones.
Oh yeah.
We grew up with no television in the house, and here we are, right? So we've gone through that, through like mobile voice technology now. And I just somehow feel like, the amount of time we have here is just not enough to see the kind of innovation that's going to be there. So I would love to go in the future and see what this looks like, like 1,000 years from now. So
very cool.
I just feel like what I've seen over the last 40 years, where can it go over the next couple of 100 years? Right. So
yeah, it's interesting. People say this about the advancements we've had lately. And I think about my grandmother, she just recently turns 100 years old.
Wow.
The things that she's seen in her lifetime are remarkable. And it's funny to me, you were talking about the last 40 years, but it's actually the gap between the very first flight that we ever had and us landing on the moon was 60 years.
Crazy.
I mean, that's mind-boggling. And to think about where we could be another 40 or 60 years from now, let alone 1,000, right?
Yeah.
That's absolutely amazing to me. And it's something that I'm really excited about too. Now, I always have to ask with people that use their superpowers, you want to see the future, you want to understand where we're headed, perhaps. And all of that seems very altruistic, very positive. But I'm always curious to know how people will use them for good. Because most superpowers, it's pretty clear to figure out how you would use it for evil, right? I can fly into the future. I can find out the outcomes of sporting events and then come back and make some really important bets. But how would you use it for good?
Well, I mean, I'm a tech nerd geek, so everything focuses around tech, but there's so many people are curious about where's AI headed? Like, is it going to do bad? I mean, I think, if we just focus on like the tech aspect of it, I think it'll be good to see, like, can we stop something from happening that people think might happen because of all this? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's something that I think there definitely would be good that could be done if you knew how some of these things are going to result in and being able to stop them kind of proactively, maybe.
All right. I like that. All right. My other question for you is it requires a little bit of a story.
Okay.
So I want you to imagine you're in a large city and you need to walk around a large city block, right, to get to your destination. And instead of walking all the way around that block, you're running late. You notice that there's an alley that you can cut through.
Okay.
It's a well-lit day. It looks very safe. No reason to question what might happen down there. And as you get about halfway down, you realize that at the other end has emerged a giant horse-sized duck.
Okay.
Big duck. At the other side, as you turn around and try to get away from that duck, you find there are 100 tiny horses, about the size of a duck. So 100 duck-sized horses. I can't do this with the echo, or one horse-sized duck. If you have to pick an end to go to, knowing you probably have a bit of a conflict, which way do you go?
Well, first of all, I'm a lazy person, so I'd probably want to just keep going in the direction that I need to actually get to my destination. So I think with the end, I think a lot of tiny horses kind of like, I think that thought kind of freaks me out a little bit. So I think I'm going to go with one large duck,
One
horse-sized
large
duck, I
duck.
think. And two reasons. One, I think it's just one thing seems less, I don't know, somehow seems safer to me in this if I'm visualizing it. Plus, I'm already headed in that direction, and if I'm split, might as well go in the direction that I need to be in. So,
True. That's the first time someone said that.
yeah.
The idea that you would want to just, well, I mean, I'm going that way. I guess I'll go that. I love that. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm in the big duck camp. I feel like that's the right direction to go. And one of the things that I haven't run statistics on, but I'm going to have to go back to, is what is the spread? I've asked that question of at least 40 different people at this point. Which way do people lean as a group? I don't actually know the answer to that.
What have you? If you've asked those questions before, what have you seen more?
I think more people pick the duck.
They do. All right.
But that's just my suspicion, and it's also influenced by my choice. So I'm not sure exactly.
Okay.
You have to run the numbers on that.
Uh-huh.
All right, let's get into some more important, serious conversation here. I'm glad that you're here. We're going to talk about Blutag in a little while. But what I'd like to know first is who you are. Where did you come from? What was your educational background? Where did you go to school? What kind of jobs did you have before doing what you're doing today? Kind of give me that history of where you've been.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I grew up in India. My childhood was in India. It was in relatively smaller, not a metropolitan city, but a smaller town in India, central India. Did my schooling there, and then I moved here junior year of high school.
Oh wow! Okay.
So, yes, I moved here in 11th grade. Went to high school here in New Jersey, in northern New Jersey. After that, went to college here in New Jersey as well, NJIT. Went there for computer science.
Oh yeah, I've been there a couple times actually.
Yeah,
for some events.
they have the Voice Summit happens there. There's a couple of events that have happened there. So I've actually spoken at both of them. So it's good to go back,
Cool.
and being able to be on campus again.
Just a side plug: the Voice Summit for 2021 is actually in DC this year, and it's coming up in a few weeks.
Yep, and we're going to be there.
Excellent. Well, we'll have to say hi.
Absolutely. So yeah, I did that, and through doing that, I mean, it's always been about technology. I've always wanted to do something that curiosity around technology has always been something that I've always done. So was doing that. Then from there, I got my first, I would say, internship during college at Board of Public Utilities in New Jersey, and again, the job over there was to do desktop support, fix computers. There was a big organization. These are like Windows machines, floppy disk, all that stuff, reinstalling Windows software, kind of doing that. Then after that, I mean, I kind of like, we did that. Software also used to kind of excite me. So, doing desktop support, I was always also curious about how can we, improve that ticketing system, try to write some code.
Yeah.
And then I got my first full-time job at Lucent Technologies in early days of Lucent.
Nice. It's a good place to be in those days.
Yeah. So mid-90s, they were just getting started. Again, got in there doing, computer support, desktop support. And, but I was always for me, I always was very curious about like the internet, like, when the internet started, like how internet works, everything. I mean, Amazon was launched, at 94? Yeah, 94-ish. So all these things were, so from there within Lucent, I kind of wanted to work more on the server side and the web server stuff. So I moved into web server area, basically managing the intranet within Lucent. Cool. And I love that. I think that was something that got me really excited, working with the Windows servers, the web servers and all that stuff, helping internal websites launch, that kind of stuff. So did that for a bit, and then I still wanted to kind of do a little bit more than just work there. So I did the exact same thing by starting like a small consulting company, just 2 people, and kind of just said that, like, why don't we just start doing consulting and start helping other companies also
Yeah.
build your web infrastructure. So we did that for a little bit,
And you said you started a company, just the two of you. Was this
Yeah.
a friend, former colleague?
Yeah, with a friend, I started that company.
Nice.
We both used to work at Lucent, and we said that, why don't we just start doing that? Because we saw the need. We're like, everybody needs this now, right? So we kind of started doing that. It was good. We did a lot of different things. I mean, we did everything. It was not just setting up web servers and websites. It was, they wanted an Exchange server set up, Windows server set up, setting up their network drives. I mean, that was like the early days where you're like a shared network drive and all that stuff. So
right.
So did all of that. And then through that process, then we kind of got into like the late 90s, 99. Then that's when like the internet was really, like e-commerce was kind of, early days, right? It was blowing up. So at that point, just looking for different things, I wanted to sell something online, and then just looking at everything that was being sold. And, I've always had this curiosity about like what happens in the future. Yes, people are selling books and electronics. So I decided to, I knew one of my friend's cousin was a big, diamond dealer in the diamond district in New York. And we kind of went there and be like, hey, why don't we sell some diamonds on the internet? And this is like 99, right?
Yeah, that's
then
really days.
The initial thought didn't make any sense to anybody, but like nobody's going to buy diamonds online. This is, our focus was more like on, they had a big manufacturing business. And we said, why don't we just take that? It was like mass market, affordable diamond jewelry. But I mean, we kind of went for it. So then we launched the site, and we, this is like, Blue Nile is a company, but it used to be called Internet Diamonds back then. So it was like we were one of the very few first people to start selling diamond jewelry online.
So are you saying the company you started became Blue Nile?
No.
Oh, okay. I was like, wow.
Blue Nile was not even around at that point. That's what
Got it.
So, we kind of like, we went through early initial days, we used to, I remember our first big day was when we did this big promotion on Yahoo's homepage, or it was Valentine's Day, and we sold these like gemstone pendants, and we spent a good amount of money on that campaign, and it went crazy. We could not believe the number of orders we started getting in that one day. Wow. And I mean, since then it was just like, the next few years were pretty solid. We went through a pretty good phase of just being able to grow the company organically, had some, angel money, the manufacturers were pretty big, they had access to funds. So we were able to kind of grow that in that capacity without, raising any venture money.
That's good.
Then we hit that 2008 time when, we had that financial crisis. Things were not making sense, and, selling things people didn't want was not really the ideal thing at that point. So, we kind of went through a pretty rough patch at that point, had a few decisions to make, like, should we shut it down? Should we keep going? So I think that was like, probably, I would say was and I know it's a longer answer that I'm giving right now, but that kind of leads me into, how do we come out of that, right? Like, so we decided to keep going because we realized that even though, it's the customers that we were acquiring, the cost to acquire that customer was high, but these were one of the best customers on the internet. They're buying diamond jewelry online using a credit card, right? We had probably the most elite internet shoppers at that point.
Yeah.
So our only thing is that, it's going to make sense if we continue to sell more to these people and kind of make them come back and kind of sell them their next product also. Because once we acquire them, how do we keep them, right? Loyalty was something. And this is like when data science wasn't really around, kind of, right? So then we, started doing like things like, hey, somebody came, cookies were around, like, okay, let's set a cookie. Customer bought an engagement ring for $1,500. We want to know when they come back again to the site, right? So they come back in 2 months, 3 months. We're like, okay, there's a very good chance that they're probably looking for a wedding band at this point, right? And at that point, like, we really started with like saying that, okay, the customer came, we got notified that, okay, somebody landed back on the site. Oh, by the way, I developed this whole first version of the site myself. I like it.
Oh, that's awesome.
There was no Shopify, right? So,
right.
And then we would like really create like a manual newsletter saying that, okay, let's make wedding bands that will go good with something that he bought. That system like worked at a very small scale, like 10 people a day type. But then it started making so much sense that we kind of automated that process. So, that started working, and we kind of like came out of that, and the company started running pretty strong after that. So, and I think so for me, since then, this one-on-one personalization was always, super close to me, and said that, okay, that is how everybody should be interacting with their customers, is personalizing on one-on-one, not segmenting them. Right. So when these initial voice devices started coming in, the Alexa devices, it was like an instant reaction that, understanding somebody's intent through voice and delivering personalized shopping is eventually how bulk of the shopping should happen.
Mhm.
And that's, now we're here. So that's how we kind of
Right.
got started with that.
So there's a part of this story that I think we're all sitting on the edge of our chairs wanting to know, like, one, what was that company called? Two, where did it go? Did it continue to succeed? Did you sell? What was the...
Yep. So the company is called Zool. So that was the name of the brand. It's SZUL.com. The
Okay.
company's still around. We got acquired, a few years
Excellent.
ago, and the company's still doing well.
Oh,
Still,
that's great.
it's one of those brands that, does a ton of business, but it's not a brand that was ever like made to brand itself in that capacity to say that, okay, let's spend a ton of money, let's make this like a known brand, like Tiffany's or Zales. But it
Sure.
does really well. It has a lot of loyal customers, a lot of repeat business. People come again and again. We still follow a lot of the same, structure on that site. I'm still on the board. I'm still definitely not involved day to day, but I'm still a part of, see that grow.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it's
that's
super
great.
exciting to see that, something that started so long ago is still kicking. So yeah.
Right. No, it's nice to see something that you built so long ago still growing and moving on. It's like a child, right?
Yeah,
In many ways.
absolutely.
Very cool. Okay, so you exit Zool and then you decide to go where?
So then I, at that point it was trying to see how building and how selling things with voice would look like. So it started in like a few different ways, right? First, it was more like the very first version of Blutag was you can ask Alexa a question for a product and it would send you an email. So the first demo that we did was
Sure.
like, hey Alexa, I'm looking for some black dresses to wear to a cocktail party in a couple of weeks, right? And it would say, hey, I found you some recommendations, let me send you an email. And it would generate an email and it would send out an email like a newsletter which is personalized based on that search. So it still
Right.
works, but that was pretty much like the bulk of the product, saying that when somebody's looking for something, I mean, a lot of the emails go into spam and stuff, but this is something that you're actually asking for, and the email comes to you, and then people will click and they would buy it. So that was
Right.
the initial kind of product that we came with. Then we started looking at, then obviously, Alexa has evolved so much, right? Then we kind of had that. Then we said that, okay, let's integrate with, Shopify first, right? So we created like an integration with Shopify. We had other platforms as well. We then did, then this is like 2018, where, Amazon had this, Alexa had an accelerator with Techstars, still has that, I think, Techstars
Right.
accelerator. So they were touring, the country, trying to find companies to be a part of that next cohort. There was the second year of the accelerator, and they were in New York. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go see what's going on there. Right. So
Right.
went to that event, and I think after going to that event, met the folks from the program and from Alexa Fund, and kind of just like was in a room and just I had like this, I had the tap, the Echo tap. I don't know.
Oh
if
yeah.
you, so
I have one.
Yeah, I love that one.
Right here.
I still think it's one of my favorite Echo devices, by the way.
Yeah, I agree.
And
I'm not sure why it was discontinued because it's such a fantastic device.
I think it's because like a lot of these new speakers already have that built in. I don't know, but I think it's a great device. So I took that Echo tap, put it on the table, and I kind of just did that query. And I had emails from these folks, and they just saw an email pop up in their inbox, and they were like, "Oh, this thing is really cool," right? So that was it, and then we did the demo, and then we kind of went back, and I never really thought about. I'm like, I don't know at what stage. I'm like, we're kind of like, I'm just trying to test this. I'm like trying to figure it out right now, what to do. We got a call from the program manager of the program saying that we love what you guys are doing. We'd love for you to be a part of this thing, right? And then still not sure. We were in New York. The program was in Seattle. Ended up going with the program, and probably a great decision to do that. So we became a part of the second class of the Alexa Accelerator by Techstars, and
Cool.
went to Seattle and spent the summer there, and kind of worked out of there.
Awesome.
And build and then during that process, we met folks at Amazon Pay as one of our mentors, through that whole program. and they got really, they really saw, what we were doing was, probably had a lot of value. And then we kind of started working closely with the pay team, integrated pay into our platform. And, and now the product essentially helps people quickly reorder, buy things. You don't have to have products on Amazon.com. You could be a Shopify store, big commerce store. You could just reorder something, and it, on Alexa very seamlessly uses Amazon Pay to process the payment, and places an order in the merchant's Shopify platform. So it's great. Yeah. So
great. So I think I know the answer to this question, but you started at Lucent early on. Has entrepreneurship always been something you wanted to do?
I think so. Yes, I would say yes.
It certainly seems that way.
Yeah, I think I've always through my even the very first internship and through Lucent, I was always looking for what is it more that I could do entrepreneurially. How could I make that into a business of my own type of thing? So I would say the answer to that is definitely a yes.
Cool.
That I think I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur.
And so just to set the stage as we dive more into Blutag here, when did you officially start the Blutag company?
So Blutag, so even before that whole voice idea, the very first version of starting something was very focused on the personalization aspect of it, as I mentioned. And at that point, this is pre-Alexa. The initial thought was to try to do, a personalized mobile app, which basically is tailored towards, there's a lot of that now, but just kind of like an Instagram for shopping type of a thing. That was the initial idea a while back. And so then, but then Blutag itself was, I think, December 2017, I would say. 2017, late 2017 is when the concept of voice got started with us, with Blutag. Yeah.
Cool. And so as you move forward, can you share with us kind of what are the things about Blutag that you're most excited about right now?
A few things. I think right now what we are really excited about is that, voice definitely when we started, I would say was a little early for what we were trying to do. Everybody knows that voice is going to be is going to play a big role in, a lot of different aspects, including commerce. But I think it was maybe we were a little early when we started, I would say. Obviously in our unfortunate circumstance, but because of the pandemic, obviously e-commerce exploded, and then smart speaker usage went up significantly, right? So, and we sit right at that intersection. So, our product just got accelerated. And so with that, what happened was that, initially when we were getting our very initial customers in 2018, were a lot of these, customers experimenting with voice, saying that, okay, yeah, we'll spend a little bit of money just to see what this thing is all about, and then learn, right? But I think over the last 10 months, I would say it's changed a lot. I think everybody has gone outside of that experimentation, saying that, okay, it's not an experiment. This is a thing. Right. Maybe they still don't know if it's a 12-month out or 24-month out, but they know it's happening, right? So I think that's what's exciting right now, is that we get a lot of interest now from pretty much every size retailer, realizing that they all need to be a part of this, voice commerce kind of the strategy. They need to have a voice commerce strategy, and it's past that stage. So that's
cool. So you're probably pretty plugged into this. I'd be curious to know, do you have any estimates on how big is voice commerce these days?
So voice commerce, just to give an idea, when we started in 2017, voice commerce was $2 billion. In the numbers from 2017 were that it was $2 billion. And
as a global industry?
Yeah, as a global.
Okay.
As you can imagine, that was pretty much mostly people using Alexa devices to reorder something, right?
Sure.
I think that's as of 2020 numbers, almost 35 million people made at least one purchase using a smart speaker in 2020.
Wow.
Accounted for $22 billion in voice commerce transactions. So, more than 10x in 3 years.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Now, the Juniper report just came out, and it says that it's on track to get to 164 billion by 2025. So,
wow.
So when you actually look at that growth, it actually is growing almost twice as fast as mobile commerce did. It's crazy. It's crazy, and I think that's why everybody's taking note of that. And it's not all the categories right now that I would say are, benefiting from it today. But I think with a lot of these screen devices now, like these Echo shows, well, and all the televisions coming with voice,
right?
basically voice being a part of every screen, I think that changes. We see the shift that, pretty much every category is going to get impacted.
Now, you mentioned categories. Which are the ones that stand out to you as the biggest or the most successful right now?
So the top ones for us are groceries, baby, pet, beauty.
Okay.
Primarily because of the replenishable nature of that, right? So consumables, quick reordering. You don't need a visual. Still a lot of headless devices. So, I think overall, those are the categories where we see a lot of success. Primary use cases, kind of like replacement of that dash button that used to be around, right? So, being able to, our customers like, Black Rifle Coffee or any of these guys, they have a lot of people who reordered their coffees or, or a moisturizer or your lip gloss or, any of these replenishable products, diapers, right? So being able to quickly say, hey, Alexa, reorder my coffee from Black Rifle Coffee, and being able to kind of get that, with the quickest way to basically replenish an item is when we see the bulk of the success. And we are able to, see increase in reorder frequency through what we're doing. So I think that's, once we have that data, it becomes a no-brainer for these brands.
I'm curious from your opinion on this. There are things like consumables, right? Reordering dog food. I don't need to see the bag again. Right? Do you think that there is a time where, or maybe there's an advancement, we're going to talk about the future in a bit, but like, do you think there's a time at which people will buy things like clothing with their voice, which does require oftentimes that kind of visual, feel, touch kind of experience?
Mm-hmm. So I would say, I think a lot of these things, when you start looking at the pattern of kind of how we're going, it's kind of like same thing we went through early days of e-commerce, right? I mean, even buying clothes online, yes, you have a picture, but people are like, oh, I can't buy, I have to try it on, right?
Right.
But I mean, I think we all buy clothes online at some capacity, right? So I think it's the same thing. And, when you start combining these screen devices, whether it's Fire TV, whether you're talking to your television, we have customers that do that right now. So, we have customers who sell apparel, even customers like Copper Compression, for example, they sell, fitness, or they sell those performance, like those, your knee brace and, elbow sleeves.
Right.
And things like that. It's kind of like not something that fully you need to touch and feel because you kind of know what the product is.
Right.
But that sells, right? So, and then, a lot of that is kind of more, there's a better conversion on those when you have a screen device for sure.
Gotcha.
But I think it's all, I think these are all going to be a part of.
I liked what you first said there, though. The idea that it's not necessarily impossible. E-commerce has figured this out, but it really comes down to reputation and customer service. If I know that I'm buying from someone that has a reputation for good, solid return policies and that kind of stuff, I probably would feel a ton more confident about buying from them only with my voice. As I'm driving to pick my kids up from something, I can be like, oh yeah, I ordered that thing. We'll just get it. If we don't love it, we'll return it. That's
it. I mean, that's the whole thing, right? Like, it's so easy to like return, right?
Yeah.
And and even like when you look at being able to, yes. So, we're the first ones to say that not every use case today makes sense for voice, right? Like if you want to compare products, you want to like, put side by side, that's not going to work over voice. Like you can't have like a very long conversation because it doesn't make sense. But yeah, we have, especially now voice becoming so, all the car makers are pushing voice, all the auto, Alexa Auto, everything is getting pushed so much. That is kind of dead time that that you should take, the consumers can do stuff, especially now more and more when they're actually not able to use their phones when they're driving. And hopefully it gets to a stage where they actually physically won't be able to use the phone. We have customers right now that are, grocery shopping when they're driving home because we have the ability to be able to say that, okay, I'm going home. I want to, add these things. Let's add some blueberries, let some butters. Let me just add all that while I'm getting home, and everything is in your cart. So when you go home and you're ready to check out, these things that were on top of your mind are kind of there. So
right,
that happens today. Yeah,
that's amazing. All right, so you're deep into the voice world. You've spent a lot of time thinking about this. One of my favorite questions to ask folks in your position is, what's your view on the current state of voice? What's missing? What's amazing? I'd love your perspective.
So I think the current state is that, I think I go back to the same thing that I think we've gone past the experimentation phase. I think I would say every industry knows that it's going to be impacted. Like voice is going to play a role in their overall, whether it's their retail shopping journey, whether it's, healthcare, whether it's just search in general. But, so that's the good thing, that everybody's kind of gone past that. They're all trying to figure out their strategy. I already gave you the state of kind of voice commerce and, how that is,
Right.
the numbers around that are, they talk for itself. But there's, I think the couple of things, I think there still is a long way to go. I think it still is in infancy. The actual voice technology, I think, still sits in its infancy, where you want to be able to have a little bit more of the conversation can get a lot better. A simple example I look at is when you're having a conversation with Alexa, only one person can speak at a time, right?
Mhm.
Either I speak or I have to wait for Alexa to stop talking and then I can speak. I think that's going to change, I'm sure, over time, where you will be able to have that conversation. Basically you'll be able to interrupt Alexa and just
Yeah.
and I think those are the things that are going to make it more natural and more more usable. And right now, the kind of things that work right now is again, looking at state right now, is that I think when we even look at a lot of larger brands and companies that have designed voice conversations, were very conversational.
Mhm.
I don't think people want to have a long conversation with anything right now, right? So the way we keep things in mind is that we try to design our conversations, which are very task based. So it still is it is a voice dialogue, but it's still, think of it like a task. So because everything that has worked so far, right? Whether you ask anybody, what do you do with the Alexa? I check the weather, I listen to music, I set a timer, right? These are tasks. So, I think the way I look at it is that if as a developer, you start thinking about any industry and say, how can you let people do quick tasks
Mhm.
using voice assistants? I think that's where you do. And I think I had sent you a video of like a quick, like how we let people quickly add items to a shopping cart, which is like a
You
task.
did.
Sure.
Let me see if I can get to that. Why is it? Oh my goodness, it's not there. Let me get that really quick. Maybe.
No worries. That's
Okay, I apologize. Yeah, that's not sitting here
so.
for some
Yes, I
reason.
mean, essentially, what the reason I sent it was just to show that how quickly you can add items to let's say a shopping cart while you're even at home, right?
Mhm.
And how do you change that behavior? So, what it shows is that our grocery customers, you can say, hey, Alexa, add milk to my XYZ grocer, add butter, add and you can just keep saying that again and again, and it keeps adding it. Our first version of that was that, hey, Alexa, add milk to my cart. Like, hey, last time I ordered this, do you want to add this? You say yes. How many do you want? I want 2. Okay, I've added 2 of these. That conversation is too long, right? Like a lot of drop offs. But
Yes.
so now what you do is that you have to use AI and you have to predict what people want. When they say add milk, just you should know that, okay, this person pretty much wants 2 gallons of milk and this particular brand, because that's what they always buy. And when you keep doing that, it changes what they feel about being able to how it becomes a behavior. So I think it's more about creating that behavior that really changes how much they can do with these voice assistants, and that's kind of what we focus on.
That's awesome. So I actually have that video coming up here in just a minute, so we'll jump back to that.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, oh, here we go. Actually, I have it. So let's give a quick look at adding stuff to cart.
Alexa, order milk from Fresh Direct.
Added. Anything else?
Strawberries.
Added. Anything else?
Bananas.
Added. Anything else?
No?
You're now leaving Fresh Direct.
So I mean, that shows you an example, right? So what again, it's a task, and like I said, the first version was like, hey, last time you ordered this, how many of these do you want? I want 4 of these. Like, okay, I've added 4. You want something else? So there was people are like, okay, this thing takes too long. I'm just going to go on the computer and do it.
Right.
So, when we talk about like the, similar journey as early days of e-commerce, there was one significant difference, right? There is one main difference, is that, when early days of e-commerce, when you bought something, it was not good. It was not perfect. But like, again, pre-Shopify, you're like trying to checkout, your credit card doesn't work, you try doing it 3-4 times, it doesn't save any of that information, then you finally are able to place that order, but you still did it because it was either doing that or you'll have to go out and find
Right.
that product, right? So you did that because that was the only way kind of you had to do it. So even if it was a little painful, it was okay. But with voice, the difference is that everything that you can provide them with voice, they can already do that on their computer or their
Agreed.
phone. So the only way it's going to make sense is if you can provide a better solution, which is not just slightly better, it has to be a lot better, right?
hmm
So what we focus on right now is that, just the example that we saw right now, this is in order to build your shopping cart for a grocer, this is 8 to 12 times faster than any existing method they had to build their shopping cart, right? And that's where it becomes a habit. That's where it makes a lot of sense. And that's, that's what we internally as team focus on, is that, remember, everything that you're giving them, they can already do that at home, right? Or so how can you make that something that is so much better and faster that it actually does become a habit? And I think that's where it's going to be. And eventually it will become more conversational, right?
I think that is such a fantastic piece of advice. It relates very closely to something that I share with people in a talk. I give a talk about tips for developers and thinking about building for voice. And one of them, I relate to the Wizard of Oz. Now there's two things there. One is about testing and how you should just stand behind a curtain and talk to people and get a feel for what your experience should look like before you ever write a line of code. But the other piece of it is about the ruby slippers from the Wizard of Oz and how she requires 3 clicks to get home. My advice to everybody, including all the people watching right now, is that when you're thinking about the important utility that you can provide to people inside a voice experience, think about the things that they, as you said, can already do today, but that's going to take them 3, 4, 5 clicks to get to.
Mm-hmm.
If you can simplify that into one statement, oh my goodness, you have won them over. And I think based on that video alone, you're succeeding in that.
Yeah. So I mean, that's exactly kind of, what the mindset is. And it doesn't come easy, right? Like, because initially you try to maximize the potential of what this technology can do, which as a first mindset is that, okay, I want to be able to talk to this device and have a conversation. People do not want to have a long conversation today, right?
Right.
They want to be able to get stuff done because that's what you're providing with them. So yeah, what you said exactly makes sense. And I think that's so accurate.
Awesome. All right. My next question pushes further into the future. I know you like to time travel. Where do you see the voice industry in 5 to 10 years?
So I think there's going to be certain aspects, more than certain aspects that are today, but there's going to be certain aspects that a consumer or a user will expect over voice, right? So there's going to be certain aspects of your experience, whether it's, I'll go back to just even your shopping experience. There's going to be certain aspects of your shopping journey that people will expect to do over voice as their main or their first preference, right?
Mm-hmm.
It'll be expected. Like, it's just like tracking your order, right? Something as simple as that, right? I think you should be able to track every single order, Amazon.com or not, using voice assistants. Our customers are doing that, and I think that's going to be something that is going to become. People will just ask that question, assuming that it's going to work, right?
Right.
And I think similarly, in you can take a look at some different industries as well. If you're trying to check, and again, this is you have to consider that there's a lot of things that have limitations around, voice recognition, personalization, identity, all that stuff right now, right? Mm-hmm. But being able to even quickly check your balance, being able to quickly check, your so we have customers that are like, they have like a loyalty program. People have points. They're always curious about what is their balance on their, loyalty program. They get a lot of phone calls for that, right? And now their customers are asking voice assistants or Alexa, be like, hey, what's my balance on this program? And it says, oh, this is how many points you have. Yeah. Eliminates calls. And so those are also the kind of things that are, again, everything that you can think of is like a quick task. There's no reason to launch a browser for that, right?
Right.
And it is ambient computing. These devices are going to be all around us, right? Whether it's, you're waking up at home or in the car or, your television, all of that
right.
stuff. And with that, the other thing that changes is that right now people still have to think about, be like, hey, I know this voice experience, which is on Alexa, so let me try to talk to Alexa, right? I think that mindset's going to go away. It is going to be truly ambient, regardless of what voice assistance it is. It is going to be, it's almost going to be similar to like a responsive website, or it's going to be similar to HTML code that works on all different browsers.
Right.
It's different, but I think that tech needs to become seamless from one assistant to another. Like, we will be, in a world where we're waking next to like an Echo Dot, right? You go into the kitchen, there's like a Google device. You go into the car, your Tesla's got its own voice assistant, right? So how do you make sure that you can carry whatever you do? It doesn't have to be retail. Whatever you do, how do you carry that conversation throughout somebody's day? Is
Right.
I think something that we'll see happen. I think it's going to be required.
Yeah, and I think that's I'm sure you've heard of the Voice Interoperability Initiative, VII. I think that's the beginning of this world as you're describing, right? Talk to any assistant on any device.
Yeah, I mean, it's so early in this thing, and that's why time travel is one of those things that are exciting, because I think we'll actually time travel in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah,
that's how it's going to feel with this technology.
It's only going to keep accelerating for sure.
Yeah.
There was something else that you said there that I wanted to call out, and it was, oh yeah, you were talking about specifically like tracking packages and finding out when things are going on, and how it shouldn't just be Amazon. And it seems to me that one of the things that needs to start changing is the idea that the data, there's lots of it out there, but none of it's very easy to consume or participate in. I'll give you a couple examples. UPS, FedEx, United States Postal Service, they all have a portal. I can go there, I can look it up, I can have my account, and it'll tell me exactly where all my packages are based on where they're being delivered, right? Which is to my house. So I know all that information if I go to those 3 different places, or if I read the 3 different emails that they send me. But there's nowhere to aggregate that. There's no way for me to talk to Alexa and say, hey, what packages are coming to my house today?
Mm-hmm.
And the initial argument for most people would be, well, the Postal Service and UPS and FedEx need to build those experiences.
Mm-hmm.
But I contend that if the data was just available in a secure way, then they wouldn't need to build that, right? A lot of those things could be built right into our lives.
Yep. And that's exactly kind of like, and we try to achieve that a little bit. So one of the things that, outside of being able to check order status, because I still have to say, Alexa, where's my order from Bloomingdale's, right? But one thing that gets a ton of usage is these delivery notifications, right? So just like right now, when you order something on Amazon.com, you get those delivery notifications on your Alexa device.
I had one happen during this interview.
So we do that for 3P. So we do that for all sites, right? So right now, all our customers, whether they're on Shopify or BigCommerce, or they could be on Salesforce Cloud, if you place an order, especially if you use like Amazon Pay as a payment method, you will get a notification on your device, even if the product was sold from a Shopify store, as that 1P experience. So, we're trying to make that into a similar experience where you should get a notification for your order status on your voice assistant of choice, regardless of where you place that order. So, we are already doing that. Tons of notifications going out, by the minute. And, but still, like there's, like I said, you still have to ask, where's my order from XYZ brand when you ask that question. Otherwise, it's going to give you. So, but it's going to change. It's happening. It's happening very quickly. So
yeah. Well, I feel like I want to spend about 3 more hours just picking your brain. This has been awesome so far. But at some point we have to start wrapping things up. So one of the questions that I'd like to kind of head our way home on, there are people in the audience right now that have ideas for starting their own business, or just maybe it's starting a skill and hoping that turns into a business. Mm-hmm. What advice do you have for people that are thinking about starting their own company?
In the voice space, or just generally? Yeah, voice space.
In general, yeah.
Well, in general, I think, I think generally any entrepreneur that wants to start, I think, it requires a little bit of, it's not easy. I think that everybody knows that. I think you have to go in there. I really feel entrepreneurship is a lifestyle, and it's not a phase that you go through. I think you have to have that mindset of just being an entrepreneur, because you have to have the resilience. You have to go through all of that. But with that said, at least in my lifetime, what I've seen, I don't think there's a better time to start a business than today, especially when it comes to tech, right? I think we are on the tipping point of a lot of different things right now, right? Whether it's AI, voice, just generally, there's just so much innovation right now. There's a lot of capital out there. If somebody wants to start a business, because you require to build a good company, you require good talent, which requires money. That money is available right now. So I think I would say, and it's funny, like we do our meetings, and there's so many different aspects of building our business. Just like you said, like an aggregator for shipping, for example, right? Like any example you take, I literally every day I'm like, you know what? There's this one thing. I wish somebody actually started a business just doing that, right? So like I go through like 5 different business ideas in a day, thinking that okay, there's a business that could be made just solving this one thing that we actually need, right? So
well, I need to subscribe to your Twitter.
Yeah. So I think like I think there's no better time to start. I think that the business right now, if you want to look at just voice in general, I think voice is probably one of those spaces where I think it's a great place to be right now. Starting something in voice it is the best time right now. There's just we're in such an infant stage. There's such a long way to go. So many different pockets of within voice space that need to be filled.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I would say if you want to start something, this is like today is the day to start, kind of. Right? So,
awesome. Yeah, the best day was yesterday. The next best day is today, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, another follow-up question to that, because I have fallen into this trap many times, and as a seasoned entrepreneur, I'm sure I know your answer, but I'm going to ask anyway. For a lot of people, they have an idea, and they want to get it started before they take the big risk of just jumping ship and starting their own company. What is your perspective or recommendation for folks that are thinking, well, I'll just moonlight this for a while until I feel like I can jump, or until I get the couple of big customers that I need? Or do you recommend just like making that hard cut and just letting your hunger drive you? What is the better way to go there?
I think it depends on the situation. One is definitely you could do. So the first scenario that you gave, I think you need a lot of discipline for that, right? Because it's really easy to already have a paycheck coming in and say that, okay, it doesn't take 6 months, maybe it'll take 3 years, right? So how do you create that discipline? Like, how do you set up your personal KPIs to say that, okay, I'm going to meet these goals, right? So I think that's the biggest challenge when it comes to doing it on the side as a side hustle to start off, because I think it always takes longer. But with that said, if you can be disciplined about that, then you say that, okay, I'm going to do my job. Yes, maybe I won't play that round of golf on the weekend because that's where I need to work, but you have to really dedicate time. So if you can dedicate that time, I think a side hustle is probably a great way to do it, right? If you do it, if you want to just leave everything, then I think you have to be prepared to realize that everything takes a lot longer than what you think, and it's going to take that time, and it's going to be, it's not going to be that quick. And I think you need to make sure that you have a buffer where you realize that you basically have to live and breathe what you're building.
Right.
And I think if you and the one aspect that I feel is something that I think people mess up on a little bit is that because they don't realize how long things take, is that people risk a lot of like their own, like they'll sell the house, they'll get rid of that, like all that stuff. I think I personally think that's when you need to do that, there's times when you need to do some of that, but I think that makes it really hard, because then what happens is that if you're building a product, you end up making decisions that are not in the best interest of the product, because now you're trying to support, you need money coming in, right? So then you do stuff that is going to give you revenue,
right?
Because you need that to breathe. And
you chase some short-term gains and maybe sacrifice some long-term stuff.
Yeah, so I think in that aspect, I think bootstrapping is great. Again, with discipline, it's great. But if you're bootstrapping and you feel that you're making decisions that are not really your vision of the product, and you're doing it because, hey, it's a good customer, let me just do this. It's only going to take me 3-4 weeks, but I'll get good revenue, and then I can keep going back to that. I think that's where it becomes a problem of your product. So if you want to do it the second way, I think the focus should be either having money saved up, where you can say that, okay, I have 2 years of capital and I don't need to make these decisions based on that I need the money, or you go raise the money, which there's so many different sources, angel,
sure,
crowdfunding, any of that stuff. So I don't know if that's an advice, but that's just something that I feel.
No, I think it's good. I think one of the big things that stands out is that discipline angle, right? I think there's a lot of people that are like, I have a great idea, I'll work on it nights and weekends until I can make it viable, and then I'll jump.
Yeah.
But like you said, there's no measurements for success. There's no timelines because it's just, I'll just wait until it's successful enough. And I haven't built enough features. I've got a graveyard of projects that I've built because I thought, oh, this will be awesome. And then I get pulled into the next thing, and my paycheck is pretty reasonable. So I'm not starving here. Right. So that's why I asked. I think sometimes that motivation helps.
Yeah, I think it does. I think, but again, that motivation, starving, but not doing things just to change that, which also could be, derailing the little bit. But yeah.
Agreed. All right. One last question. You can see I have a whole pile of devices here behind me. I don't see a ton behind you, but that's okay. I'm curious, how many voice devices do you have in your home?
2 here. There's another one. I mean, how many do you want to see? I don't just put them in front of me. So, okay, I'm going to count them right now. I have 8 right here on my desk.
I assume you have them all muted.
What?
You have them all muted?
They're all muted. Yeah, they're all muted. You could pretty much say anything at this point. I have these Sonos with both the assistants on them. Yeah, so I have 8 devices. Oh, sorry, 9. So I have 10 devices right here. There's unplugged. I think in my house, I would say maybe 30.
Oh my gosh.
I would say 30. Yeah.
Yeah, that's coming close to my number, and I'm out of control.
Yeah.
So that's pretty impressive.
So yeah, my son's really into tech as well. He's more we control everything with the voice right now. Alexa turns on and off a lot of things in our house. So, but yeah, I would say 30 if I had to take a guess.
That's awesome.
Could be more.
Yeah, I continue to surprise myself. I'll say, turn off the kitchen. Can't remember if that's even a thing. And then all of a sudden, all 4 lights in the kitchen go off. And I'm like, yes, I did solve that one. That's great.
Yeah, we did. Last year, we had set up Christmas mode. So we said, Alexa, turn on Christmas mode, and all the lights, the tree, and everything goes on. So
great.
I think we might have that already saved up still. So
yeah, I've got to reconfigure that for this year. We got some new things we got to add.
Yeah, it's awesome.
All right. So as we wrap things up here, if people want to reach out to you, if they want to engage with Blutag or you directly, what do you recommend?
Definitely reach out. We'd love to talk. You could just go to our site, blue.ai/contacts. Yeah, that's perfect. I think that's something that, we love to hear from, somebody who might be just curious on, and have any questions, or any agencies. We've started working with a lot of agencies who are building voice experiences for their customers. And, we have this whole thing where we train them on how to use our platform, deliver experiences. Any questions you have, or, generally, if you want to just geek out about voice, I'm always around for that. So
awesome.
But
I assume you're available on Twitter too, if people want to reach out.
Yes. I think that's my Twitter handle right there. I put it right on my.
That's perfect. All right. Well, Shilp, thank you so much. The echo is what made everything messy very early on, but I think thank you for your patience.
Yeah, we couldn't tell. You did great.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, I'm going to say thank you to you, and thank you to everyone that tuned in for joining us today. And we'll see you all very soon. Take care.
Excellent. Thank you, Jeff. Thanks.